Are you living authentically, or are you just a houseplant who's pretending to be the president? I'm Bradley James, and this is American Psychology. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. This is American Psychology, and before we begin, tell the like button that you want to play an extreme game of hide and seek and drive them out to the deepest, darkest forest that you can find and tell them to start counting to 50, and as soon as they start counting, get in your car and drive home. Let's go and get started. Today I want to go and talk with you guys about something that we all struggle with, and that is keeping our lives in some sort of balance, keeping things aligned, keeping things in a loop. And sometimes it feels that our loops become broken or they become untied, and so much to the point that if one loop were to fall apart, the rest of our lives would fall with it. As a way to represent this, and something that I found, is something called Bormans Rings, or Bormans Rings. Now, these rings have been utilized in several different cultures, and they range from the Aztec ruins to Norse mythology to Christianity, representing the Trinity. It's also used in mathematics and as a way to represent DNA, and we believe the earliest origins of this date back to a family crest. But for today's lesson, I want to use the imagery of Bormans Rings, which are simply put 3 rings that interconnect, and if one were to be broken or taken away, the rest would fall with it. Now, in my clinical work, I've been able to identify 3 main areas of focus utilizing this imagery of Bormans Rings, that if one of these areas were to become lesser than or to be broken away, the other 2 areas would fall along with it. And so the first area that I want to talk with you guys about is that of commitment. If I were to ask you, how committed are you to the things that you want most in life? Why do you procrastinate on the things that mean the most to you? Are you pursuing elements in your life because you believe they will make you happy? If I were to give you everything that you desire, everything in life that you believe would make you happy, would your life have meaning? Would you be committed to life still? Would your life have any sort of drive or purpose? Even more so, would you be committed to who you could be? And see, that is the thing about commitment in life. We try to be committed in life because we are trying to find a semblance of happiness. However, happiness cannot be manifested by words or thoughts, but by the cultivation and harvest of a life built on a foundation of meaning. This is also to understand that in our commitment to life, if this commitment falters, how soon do other areas of our life falter? Does our commitment towards the person that we could be, or the person that we desire to be, the person that we envisioned we would be as a small child, disappear completely? And suddenly we've become a shell of a person, and we live a life of what ifs. So in our commitment to life, we should not seek out happiness, not in the sense that we would traditionally think. We should seek out things that have meaning and purpose in our life, because after all, happiness is an emotion, and it is a fleeting one at that. And so we should enjoy the moments of happiness when they come to us, because happiness can be easily taken away. But if we have a life of meaning and purpose, and happiness is brutally taken from us, then our life can still be that of one of meaning and purpose, because it is strong in its foundation. However, in order to do this, then we have to also focus on my second point, my second ring, and that is of connections. Imagine if your life only consisted of people who would want the best for you, told you what you needed to hear, not what you wanted to hear. After all, to truly care for others is to not pity them, as this can lead to contempt. Instead, to truly care for others is to encourage them to face their suffering to the best of their ability. And so in these connections as well, in facing suffering, our connections are there for a reason, meaning our support. In fact, I challenge you, can you name me anything in this world that operates independent of itself, meaning it needs nothing else to exist and to operate? No? I didn't think so. It's because nothing exists. So why the hell do we think that we can? See, this is where supports are so important. Champions come in pairs of two because they battle themselves into perfection, but they are also needed for one another. And this is true for our own support system. More often than not, we don't utilize our support system properly because we give ourselves every reason in the world not to. They won't understand, so I'm not going to try and bother them with this, or I don't want to explain myself to them about my issue, or their issues are far more vast than mine, and so trying to burden them with my issues would simply not be right because they're dealing with a lot more than what I'm dealing with, so I'm not going to bother them with that. And see, these reasons or these excuses are what we tell ourselves all the time to not properly utilize our support, to not properly make these connections. And so we unintentionally do more damage to ourselves and to others. And how can we be a support for others if we ourselves are so weighed down and burdened by things that we could unload onto others and gain support for to make it through? However, in the other part of connections or our support system, this also includes relieving ourselves of weight or connections that are not productive for our positive growth and development. This can also include friends of many years or even family members. And I often have clients say, well, that's my brother or that's my mom. I have to help them. And I would agree, yes, do everything you can, throw a life raft out. But there is a point where you, as long as you can say you have done everything you can to help, then you are not obligated to go down with anyone else's ship, especially if that sinking ship will only create more chaos in your life and eventually make you drown as well in the process. And so in these connections, in these supports, finding those that are productive to our positive growth and development, things that are good for us, connections that are good. Are we surrounding ourselves with people that we know are not good for us? And so in these connections, in these supports, this means finding which ones are of value to us, which ones are positive for us, and cutting out those that are not, or of relieving ourselves of those that are creating a sinking ship within our own lives. Which ones are the ones that are simply putting cracks in our own pillars, waiting for us to fall, pretending to be a support? Are the connections in your life, the supports in your life, quality ones? And which ones do you need to remove? And so for my final ring to focus on is that of career. Now, not all of us are blessed to have a career in which we get to wake up every day doing the thing we love while also having this career support our basic needs of being able to provide food, shelter, and clothing. There is something to consider in that. Are you going to a career, or is your job one in which you dread every single day? Is it making you absolutely miserable? Or is your career necessary for your survival? Does it meet the basic foundational needs? Does it allow you to have those things? And if so, then what can you do in the environment around your career to make it better? And what are you doing with the time in which you are not at your career? Are you wasting your time? Are you wasting away the valuable time in which you could be gaining things that allow you to have a meaningful life? Or are you simply coming home every single day doing the same exact thing until you're in a rut that you've walked so many times that it is now so deep that you cannot get out of it and your life feels meaningless? I am using the term career in a also broader sense to that of some people's meaning and purpose in life, things that give them this sense of happiness, is being a good friend, being a good husband, being a good spouse, a good brother. And see, the thing is, we all take up this sense of a career in life because life itself is a career. And there are many different aspects of this in our life. And so this is measured by one thin line on our gravestone. If you've noticed this, on every single gravestone, there's a beginning and an end date and a small dash that represents everything that we have done in our life, who we are, what we have been, what we were. So what do you want your dash to say? If people were at your funeral, what would you want them to say? What would you want them to say about you? What things are you putting in your dash that you could be proud of, that you would want to be remembered by? What effort are you putting in your career of life? And so with these 3 rings of connections, commitment, and career, think to your own life. So think to these 3 areas and which one of these areas for you is the weakest. Do some self-reflection. This weak area of your life, how much of it is impacting the other areas of your life? And how can you improve it? But I am not the arbiter of truth. These are simply seeds for you to take and plant if you wish. So that's going to be it for today, guys. If you guys could please hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the notification bell. That way you get new updates every time we post a new video, once or twice a month. And we'll see you all next time.